spokesperson for the John Mahama campaign team. Hello, good evening, ma'am. Welcome to Eyewitness News. Is it a case that, Nana Addo has no legacy worthy of protection of the next regime? Should it be an NDC regime?
Good evening to you, Salom. You put the question rightly. This president has no legacy. Salom, if you have a dictionary there with you, I would love that we take an exercise together with our cherished listeners to show us the meaning of legacy. The legacy means that something you've done that goes beyond your lifespan and has an impact on the people for a long term. We are talking about a government that just last March, the president himself was in parliament to admit that the state of our country today is worse off than it was 40 years ago. These are not the words of the NDC. We are talking about a country where more than 850,000 people have been pushed down the poverty line. We are talking about a country where unemployment has increased from 8% to 14.7%. And the president says what? His legacy. Just like President Mahama has said, the legacy of this president is unprecedented corruption. Never in the history of our country have we recorded an excess of 55 billion cedis as financial irregularity. Never in the history of our country has any government got access to funds because of a pandemic, and then government distributes these funds to their party foot soldiers. Never in the history of our country have we seen the levels of unbridled arrogance where when people do not have access to power, the president's appointees will say that we should draw our own timetable. And so these are their legacies. And of course, for those legacies, President Mahama will not protect. Let me also say that.
But is there any of his legacies that President Mahama will protect at all?
You listen to the audio and you have played it for your viewers. Did you hear the president himself mention any legacy?
All right. So again, let's do the exercise together. So, for example, we know there's increased enrollment of senior high school students thanks to the free SHS program. Is it a legacy that John Mahama will protect?
Okay, so let me show you. President Mahama, between the period of 2012 to 2016, increased the enrollment of secondary school students by more than 50,000. President Kufuor did same. So for the president to then say something, he ought to be talking about something he's done that historically has not been part of our history. So if I were to talk about President Mahama's legacy, then I'll be proud to mention the UGMC, because historically we've never had a 612-bed hospital like the UGMC. So the president himself could not tell the people he was addressing what his legacy is. And I was coming to the point that when the name of Akufo-Addo is mentioned, he'll be remembered for unprecedented nepotism. Never in the history of our country have you had the president bring as much as 51 family and friends into government as appointees. You have a precedent that the environment has been destroyed today. COCOBOD is making losses. The ECG is making losses. All state organizations which are making profits have now become liabilities onto the nation. Never in the history of our country have we experienced the levels of state capture like we had in PDS, in Japan, and now we are having to talk about...
Let me interrogate your claim about the progressive free SHS. So 2012 to 2016, you increased the number by 50,000 cumulatively, or 50,000 per year.
Cumulatively, in fact, more
so
than
that's
50,000.
Also, so let's say 50,000. But we know that between 2017 and now, the numbers have grown to millions. About 2.5 million people have benefited, and the numbers in the schools have doubled. So 50,000 versus doubling the number. That is
so
not
let me show you something. When you are doing a comparative analysis, you don't take the year and then say that, oh, now we have 2 million people in school. You would have to look at the number of people you have and the increase recorded versus the population growth before you can do that analysis. And I'm telling you that if the analysis is about increase in enrollment, every successive government have increased enrollment, and future governments will increase enrollment. So
yes, that's a fair point.
Let me land.
That's a fair point.
Let me land so
yes.
that you ask.
No, you added to it. So that's a fair point to make. But we're talking about the percentage increase, the rate of increase. So if you were increasing by 5% every year, and now you increase by, for example, 20%, that is quite a quantum leap, which must be explained. And that explanation in this case is largely due to the free SHS, is it not?
Can we look at the definition of legacy so we can have the discussion in context? Because not every action and inaction can be described as a legacy. And so every future government, unless you are telling me that a future government will come and reduce the number of secondary school students we have, then you can actually be talking about what you're talking about. We in the NDC are saying that Nana Addo doesn't have a legacy. At a time when the nation is reeling under hardship, let me make this point. Before Nana Addo became president, he did two things that people, associate him with. First of all, he was campaigning in church stations and church bars. You remember, where there are even pictures of him eating and sitting in church to show that he was with the masses. At the time he was doing this, fuel was less than 16 cedis per gallon. Today, the fuel is 68 cedis and beyond. So if that is the legacy you were talking about, that's what the NDC is telling you, that then we will destroy that legacy. When he did the second famous thing, the Calipo challenge, at the time, Calipo was 1 cedi. Today, he should attempt doing the same Calipo and see whether Ghanaians can afford even Calipo, because Calipo is 5 cedis. What we are saying is that in every sector of the economy, even in the education that you're talking about.
Well, let me give you the definition of legacy. Well, one of the definitions is the long-lasting impact of particular events, actions, etc., that took place in the past or of a person's life. All right. So how about the issue about Agenda 111 hospitals we see dotted across the country? A lot of them have not been a lot of them have not been completed. We understand.
You shouldn't have issued the caveat.
No, but of course they've not said they are done, right? They said they are building them. They may not have met the time limits or the deadlines they gave themselves, but we see some of them around at various stages of completion. It could be 5%, it could be 20%, it could be 30%. Is this a legacy that John Mahama will want to complete? Remember, we've been talking about abandoned projects. Will Mahama complete those projects?
Let me rephrase your question to understand. Are you asking me whether cutting salt and starting projects can be described as legacy? Is that your question?
Well, we see some work.
Agenda 111.
Yes, we see some work ongoing, and they tell us that they will complete some of them. I'm not sure they can complete. Whether you complete it or not, it becomes a legacy, does it not?
That is not true. Otherwise, and that is why this president is on a sword cutting spree with nothing to show. That is why he went to Labadi to demolish their hospital, and today there is nothing to show. That is why he went to Shama to do same, and today the place is a bushy area. So the definition of legacy cannot be that somebody who goes around cutting salt and starting project. But let me address the concern. The president himself, in his State of the Nation's address, has told everybody Parliament and the people of Ghana that he, Nana Addo, cannot complete those projects. He himself. In fact, in the 2024 budget, there are no allocations for the Agenda 111 to show that it can be completed even by the set time. If you look at the report presented to the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, it tells you that they simply cannot finish. They themselves are projected to finish the project in 2027. So if under his tenure, he cannot point to a single hospital, including even the one that he promised, where lies the legacy even in the health sector? Where lies the legacy?
I see.
You know, we must not entertain people speaking because of an election year. We must put people to the test. We must let politicians know that you cannot just make statements and go, because many people are reeling under excruciating pains today. And when the president has an opportunity to address the nation, to say something to calm us down, he engage in what I would describe as self-aggrandizement. The president has simply lost touch with the plight of the people, the short people he went to visit, the taxi drivers he went to visit, the choba people he went to visit. I can tell you that their lives are worse off than it was in 2016.
Very well. Beatrice, I want to thank you so much for speaking to us this evening on the question of legacy. On the question of legacy of the president, whether indeed there is a legacy or not. The president says he has a legacy. Thanks so much for speaking to us, and we wish you well, Beatrice.